Hello, hi, I'm Jeff Drummer of the ULA,
And hi, I'm Christy Cotton of the ULA.
and we wanted to come to you today to just say hello and let the people know how much we love them and how much we are concerned about us. The ULA has come to help our community and solve every single problem that we have. Right now, what we'd like to talk about today is building a prosperous community, building a powerful community the ULA way. The ULA, our mission is to establish and empower self sufficient communities and to help people help themselves. We're here to help our community sustain itself. So, being self sufficient is our moniker. We decided that we're going to build the culture that is acceptable in our community. And we're putting forth every means of our time, talent, and treasure to make sure we do so.
And we decided to come in on this day because we know right now there's a pandemic that's happening, COVID 19. And we want to give information to our community and to be able to help them to stay safe, to be well, but also to extend any learning that any knowledge that we have to be able to help our community at this time.
Thank you. And today's current climate is dealing with the pandemic, just like Christy said. And we noticed that in the context where the president is opening up cities that are majority African American and believing that we'll give them the data that they need to determine if they should open up the entire country. And we wanted to speak on it. But what we have also noticed that a lot of people are speaking on it. What we do is offer solutions beyond just propaganda and being controlled by media or being controlled by external factors that don't resemble our interests. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to address, to a small degree, the the climate of the president and others opening cities that are majority African American and what is the purpose behind it. But we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it.
So we're going to basically start by explaining what the ULA actually does. We're going to talk about the effective communities and how it involves 6 domains, and we'll discuss that briefly. And then we're going to touch on 2 of those domains and kind of go into depth um, as we just basically just kind of talk and hopefully later on get feedback from you guys if y'all are watching or listening.
Okay, and definitely like our page so that and share it with others because we're going to create a national dialogue where we are responsible for creating the movement to create the change that we envision and that is absolutely needed. First, we like to say we are expecting a unified front to come out of this particular situation, which is this pandemic. It's clear that our community, the African American community, is not prioritized in this context. I wouldn't just say this country, but just in this context. And right now, it's necessary that we be the voice and we be the executors over the culture and what's going on in our community. So we want to give some attention to that. As we know, there are no answers right now currently for the pandemic and the virus that has gripped us all, but to allow us to socialize in community and take away um, obstacles to prevent the spreading of this disease is asinine. But we see what the purpose is. It's to use us, to use marginalized people for implementation and research. But we have to come out and unify and discourage us from being
Basically,
susceptible to
right.
what's going on.
And basically, just to put it simple, being the guinea pigs for what they're trying to, I guess, get data from. Um, so if you've seen on the news, like Drummer has said, people are talking about why are they opening up certain states or certain cities that are majority African American. So you have to ask yourself that question: what are they doing? What is really happening here?
And hearing quite a few discussions online and just throughout time, we hear people talk all the time about like what some of our objectives are in the ULA. I'll first start by, in lieu of this pandemic, what the ULA is here for is to overturn any negative effects that grip our community. We understand that there's institutionalized dependency that was structured, planned, and it's repetitious. It's concurrent. It's ongoing today, just like it was 400 years ago to up to now. So our job is to overturn the effects of slavery. That's just bar none. Overturn the effects of Jim Crow, Willie Lynch, the intellectual apathy movement. Martin Luther King knew that economics was polar to making that systemic difference and not being and allowing us the opportunity to be more self-reliant or self-sufficient. Okay, and as we overtake those things, I just want to talk about the effects of slavery and how we were controlled mentally to underperform and work in a subservient way to serve others. In today's current climate, although we were enslaved initially, well, we're not going to get into history. The bottom line is so many people are benefiting off of our conditioning now. It's so many different races that, eating the fruit of the land of our lack or our apathy. And we have to change that. Sometimes we're called the crazy coaches. Sometimes we're called the extreme teachers. Sometimes we're called the vigilante neighbors, and we're looked upon by people who look like us, who are African as well, as being extreme. We think it's pretty common sense. It's pretty intelligent to consider your interests first. Put the mask on your face first before you try to help others, and then help others when you're safe. And that's the position that we're taking. So, what do you have to say, Christy?
Well, basically, I think we should go ahead and get into our two domains that we're going to discuss today. But just to let you know, just to give you a little data about, Black America, at this time, just Black people in America, we spend, 97.5% of the money with other racial groups. So are we supporting our communities? No, we're not. A lot of us, only own 5% of the businesses in our communities. Um, it's growing, but we're not where we should be at this time. And that's a concern. So as I think about this COVID-19 happening, a lot of the essential people, most of them are African American working in your grocery stores, still trying to keep everybody in that survival mode. But that's all we're doing. We are essential workers. We're not owning our businesses, and that needs to change. Um, a lot of the people who were able to stay at home and work from home to be in a safe environment, 20% of those people were African Americans. That's not a lot. So that's a concern to me. So our people are going out there making sure that everybody is being fed, being taken care of. When you think of your trucks that come in with the groceries, that's a lot of our people doing that job. So we need to change that. We need to start owning businesses. I mean, instead of us driving that truck for that company, let's be the owner of that truck company.
Absolutely.
So that's basically what we're going to talk about. Two domains today is just making sure you guys are, being taking care of your health and wellness. That's one of our effective communities domains. And then we're going to also talk about social and economic prosperity. So that kind of ties together with what I was just talking about and what Mr. Drummer was talking about as well. So
So now, if you consider those things, we're African first. Can everybody repeat after me? Say, we're African first.
we're African first.
So now, our existence here in America started with slavery. Um, the way that you break down strong people, and we were strong, and we are strong, but the way that you can control a people who are stronger than yourselves is by focusing on the very first principle of humanity, your health. Where your health goes, your life goes. Where your health goes, your happiness and your joy goes. There are 5 areas of health that those who, and we don't focus on external things. We don't focus on other factors that hinder us. We want to focus on the positive. Let's focus on us. There are 5 areas of health. When brought here, they knew that in order to break us down, they had to control our health. There are 5 areas of health. They knew that spiritually, if they controlled us or affected us spiritually, that they can control us because that'll affect our character and that'll control us outside of their own hands and outside of their own sight. Spiritually, they knew that we were a spiritual people. They knew that they overtook us in that regard, that that would control us even while they were not on in their position of being head. Okay, spiritual areas, they knew it. Emotionally, they knew that they had to damage us significantly in order to terrorize the people who's stronger than them. Mentally, they knew that if they controlled our minds, that they can control our bodies, and that's a true statement, and it's pretty evident today. But we have some pretty strong people who are pretty mentally strong, who are proven that we have the might mentally to be everything and anything, meaning that we can control our own destiny. But that's where the movement is necessary. We're coming in and partnering with other like-minded people, creating a current, ebb and flow that overtakes every negative aspect of our community. And then the next 2 are social health. They knew that through Willie Lynch, if they divided and conquered us, they could defeat us. They know that unity is the strength of any community. Okay, and the last thing being
physical health.
Physical health. Thank you, Christy. I'm losing my physical health. I don't sleep at night. I sleep maybe 3 hours a night, and it's catching up with me. But physical health. We're physically strong. We've always have been. The only problem with being physically strong is sometimes we prioritize physicality over intellect and over mentality and mental wellness. And I'd rather my children want to become farmers, engineers, architects, and things like that that can sustain a society that has a broader net than just athletics alone. There's only a few people in the world who's good enough and who can fit into that small niche of professional athletics. And there's so many other areas of focus out there that we need to focus on.
Mhm.
So
No, so basically, he just went over like the 5 areas of health, and we're not going to get really into detail, but right now our focus with what's going on would be our physical health, making sure we are living a healthy and active lifestyle. And you hear on the news that they say a lot of us who have died from this pandemic was due to health problems that they had before they had corona. So we need to make sure as a community that we are taking care of ourselves, getting going to our physicals, making sure we're exercising, eating the right foods. That's going to be important. Being strong, just developing yourself. And then when we talk about mental, I mean, you know we need to work on that as a group. I mean, we don't really deal with a lot of things up front. We as a community are just now um, going to counselors and people to help us with our problems. But the thing is, we have problems from our past, or we have problems just from everyday society that we have to deal with as African American people. And we just sit there and we let that weigh on us and weigh on us. We
without
need,
treatment.
without treatment, we need to be able to, come to a forum to talk about it. Go to your, find a medical therapist that suits you, that understands you and understands where you've been. So we really have to work on taking care of our mental health so we can become stronger as an individual and be strong within our community.
Yes, Christy, you're absolutely right. Um, just thinking about how we're controlled in so many areas. There's a high debate right now just talking about spirituality. Now, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, and we're believers, we're Christians, and we believe in Christ. We believe that He is the Son of God. We've repented. We believe, with our hearts, we confess with our mouths that He is Lord, and we're saved. So, just spiritually, talking about there's so many other factions out there that people believe. I've had my own personal experience in conversation with the King. So I strongly believe it's not about how you practice Christianity, or it's about the fact that you are a believer without getting too deep in that regard, because I hear arguments on so many different sides. I'm Protestant personally, but when I hear the arguments from so many other the Methodists, the Episcopalians, and it's like, okay. And I've heard so many experts, doctors talk about the different things that they believe, and it's like, okay, all right, but that's wonderful. But we're not. We're all a part of the body, so we're knitted together. So we need to do a lot of taking care of and spreading the gospel without a lot of the infighting, and that's what I've found. But spiritually, um, talking about our spiritual health, there's so many people in churches but not in the kingdom. The scriptures tell us that He added to the church daily those who were being saved. So Christ adds to the church. It's not your church attendance, the physical church, that matters. So He wasn't talking about you being added to the church by man. He was adding you to the church, like the church, the non-physical church, okay, the church of God. And so as spiritually, we want to make sure that in order, and our purpose for doing this, like, we're not theologians, we're not, this isn't a seminary, but we believe that the more you know about these 5 areas of health will help you understand how to navigate in life. I've heard someone say knowledge is power. Well, it is. And that's how we're controlled by external factors, this American system that continues to beguile us. It's a farce. It's fooling us because many of our efforts are focusing on building in their vineyard. We're building and we're becoming professional, and we're becoming educated, or we're getting actively involved. But at the end of the day, is it building our self-sufficiency, our independence? The answer is no, it is not. So we're moving away from the system that is fooling us into, okay? So we're African first, not American first. So you have to understand that. To be spiritually healthy, you have to adequately understand the principles and beliefs that which you base your spirituality. Most people do not understand the scriptures, or they do not apply it. And if you don't apply it, my people perish from a lack of knowledge. They don't understand. Okay. The next thing you have to have is faith that your spirituality, your spiritual practices will yield you positive gains. The woe is me attitude, just gloom and doom, thinking that there is, death at the end of your pilgrimage, that's a negative thing. The Bible tells me, again, I'm not preaching, but to be absent from the body is to be present with God. So at the end, for the believer, there's no death. If you die in faith, there is life everlasting after it. So no matter what your faith is, African, understand what your spiritual practices are and what yields they would gain. Okay, and we want them to be positive. Next, this is dealing with spiritual health, and this is very general. Okay, so you theologians, you biblical gurus, this is general. You can't argue it and say that it's wrong, but there are a lot of different things that you have to add to it to make it substantive. Okay, the next two are living a lifestyle of integrity that reflects your spiritual principles. Repeat after me. Say, living a lifestyle of integrity.
Living a lifestyle of integrity
That reflects
that reflects
your spiritual principles.
your spiritual principles.
Meaning, be about your talk. Live it. Don't just talk it. Love in deed, not just in word. Don't just talk, I love you. Show them that you love them. That's much like the ULA. We can all talk about the symptoms, we can all talk about the things going on in society. We choose not to talk about it. We're being about it. We put feet to all of our concerns, all the things that concern us, all of our physiological needs: security, food, clothing, housing, all of those things that we need, we put feet to it. We appreciate what all the other organizations are doing. We have nothing negative to say about anyone, but the ULA has a charge that's going to also bring together a defense organization. We have to defend ourselves. We don't have to take this stuff from people. We have to have these discussions, much like the Anti Defamation League. They assure that the Jewish community is prepared and covered. Okay. Lastly, lastly, the last principle of spiritual health that everyone needs to know is that your principles encourage understanding and respect for all people. Your principles encourage understanding and respect for all people. Christ does not I'm so sorry about that. Christ does not force you to choose him. He tells you to choose life. Okay? That's his will for you to choose life, but he does not take away your free choice. That's the great thing about what Christ did for us. He liberated us, he freed us to make our decision. Okay? Now, make sure that you have understanding and respect for all people. If you have to murder people just because they don't believe like you, if you have to kill and hurt people and criticize them because they don't believe, then that is a serious problem that shows that you are spiritually unhealthy. So make sure you communicate these values to your kids. There are 4 values that we want you to focus on with regarding spiritual health, and talk to your family about it to make sure that they can, in the end, hear your Savior say, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant," because that's all this life is about. You have to worship him with your life.
And so the last two is emotional health. I know we're, running a little short on time, so I'll just briefly. Emotional health basically talks about your wellness, making sure you can function properly and be able to respond properly. taking care of your, enhancing your self control, enhancing your self esteem, and having that self confidence. That's dealing with the emotional side. Do you have anything else to say on emotional or?
Well, I would just say now, just real talk. Emotionally, where are we? Are we maintaining our healthiness through trial? That shows your emotional health. How long can you maintain stability under pressure? Some people break in the first month. Some people divorce in the first year. Others can make it through the end. Okay, who's long suffering? That's the fruit of the spirit, if you didn't know. But so emotional health is very important. Emotionally, where are we nowadays? Where are we in the context of this pandemic in our community? Where do you think? What away from the script? Although we don't have a script, where do you think we are emotionally? Just real talk.
I think we're frightened as a people right now. I honestly think we are. And I think also emotionally, because we are not sure what's happening, or we know what's happening, we don't just know how to deal with it. When it talks about self confidence, I think we're lacking that at this time.
For sure.
So, and I think we're afraid of what's happening. You know, especially when you see the news and the data. I mean, for me, that when I see this what's happening in the statistics, and it frightened me. It truly did. Like, what's going on? Why are people dying at massive numbers? So yeah, I right now emotionally, I think we're not doing very well. So I think that's where we're at.
Well, as an African man, and knowing that God gave me a vision, and He showed me how He was going to use me, like Moses in the ULA, to overturn the negative effects and to restore our community. He gave me a direct charge to say, elevate and deal with our men. Christy speaking about being emotionally afraid. Wanted to deny it, but I personally asked myself the question: Are like, are we just? Do we just not know? Are we just ignorant? Have the terrorism taken all of our courage away, or is there something missing, in us that would prevent our men from seeing their need? That would cause us to not take our rightful places as providers, as protectors, as priests of our homes, and to control the culture in our community. We're the heads. We love talking about it. So let's take our rightful places as heads so that our community can be everything that it's called to be. We're calling on all men, all women, all people of goodwill. Hey, all we don't discriminate. People of all nationalities, all places. If you have goodwill toward men, the ULA has a place for you, because we're coming against evil and we're coming against oppression, and we're not afraid to deal with it. So if you're a man and you have courage, give me a call. My name is Jeffrey Drummer. Call us at the ULA. You can see the number behind us: 832 283 3087. Give us a call or follow up with us at www.ulamovement.org, and we'll be more than happy to discuss with you. Just know that no matter who you are or what you do, if you're like minded, together, we can change the world, and that's what we expect to do. But our men have to be courageous, okay? Not fearful, very courageous. We're not unified enough right now to take on um, all of our enemies, but we definitely have to communicate to resolve this ongoing problem that we have. It's been here since we've landed here, and it's still prevalent, but we don't have to take that anymore. And I made a promise to God, and our women and our children. And I said that, here I am, send me, Lord, and we'll do whatever's necessary to raise the banner for God and His kingdom in the context of the world, not just the Black community, but as He showed me, the Black community in particular. We're going to change the game. We're setting the tone for culture, and it's not an option. So come join us.
Okay. So I don't know if we're kind of running short on time. We may have to, we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis, if not every other day or every day basis. We hope to have followers, and we hope people, you know, like us, share us, so that we can, you know, be what be out there a little bit more. We're trying to grow ULA, so we're always looking for members. So we will be coming back. I know we were going to touch on economic prosperity, am I right? But our time is 31 minutes. We're kind of over our time. So, um,
Christian, right? Anywho,
we don't
we
want
want to
to.
give honor to Stevie Wonder. He is my hero. He is one of the greatest men to ever exist. Stevie Wonder, we love you. That's our time. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, all Medgar Evers, and I want to honor their wives too: Betty Shabazz, Winnie Merle Evers, Coretta Scott King, Winnie Mandela, all exceptional people. Who did I miss? Amy with Marcus Garvey. Anywho, we love you guys, and we look forward to partnering with you because we're taking over. It's not optional. We're courageous, we're strong, and we are going to make the change. Not optional.
So this won't be the last time you will be seeing a lot of us.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for spending time with the United Leadership Alliance.
Blessings.